Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Serge, and welcome to another episode of Search for the Truth. And my goal with this is to educate people, empower people in order to get the right information out to help them to get better naturally. Because I'm a firm believer that if you nourish your body the right way, your body gets better and you can actually reverse different health conditions. And today I'm really excited to have Mr. Chris with me. He's a passionate of wellness, health, nutrition. So thank you for joining me today on the show.
Oh, absolutely.
And welcome everybody, Jennifer, for example. So if you guys have any question, please write it in the chat section so I can ask my guests your question. So first of all, Chris, you put out a lot of information on that. You really try to educate people like I do. Why is that? What's the reason behind this passion of you doing all what you do?
Well, it started when I was really young. I had skin problems, and I went through a whole lot of issues trying to cure those or clear them up. Acne is what I struggled with, and things weren't working for me. And there was a lot of mythology, a lot of things that were not true out there that I thought were true. So it wasn't until I started to dig into things that I got beyond antibiotics and medical pills to try to clear up the acne, which it never did. So I learned things like diet, which wasn't well known at the time. This is the 80s. And I learned that products that were labeled for certain conditions didn't always help a condition. Sometimes they made it worse, depending on what the ingredient was. So it started really early for me. And with all of the available information out there today, some of which is really incorrect. You got people on TikTok putting toothpaste on acne pimples and all sorts of craziness. Yeah. So when I started my YouTube channel, it really was to focus on helping the same thing I'd been doing for the last 20 years with my books, to educate people on alternative ways to treat skin conditions when your medical, societal ways, your labeled products weren't working for you, but nothing was working. So it sort of evolved into anti-aging. And now, of course, with all of these skincare products that come out on the market every year, celebrity brands, I really focused in on helping people solve the conundrum of skincare. So the whole preface of the channel on YouTube for me and what I do with people these days is I try to help them find skincare that will work for them, not empty their wallet, and not do them more harm than good. So that's really the credo of what I'm about. So when it comes to skincare, and of course behind that, there are fitness and nutritional things that I help people with, weight loss and stuff like that. But skincare is what I'm mostly known for, especially now that I'm going to be 58. And I've done a pretty good job of taking care of myself. So, people are like, okay. So it helps to walk the talk for so long, starting in my 20s, and to reap the benefits now later on in life of wearing sunscreen and making sure that I stayed away from a lot of refined sugar and food throughout most of my life, and just learned to take really good care of my skin and my body over time. It's really benefited me even into today. So now I get to walk around and talk about how to help people get back there or to reverse some of the damage that's been done that can be reversed. And it's never too late to pick up a healthier lifestyle ever in any time. So.
Wow, I really appreciate what you just said, because it's never too late. Sometimes I have people coming to me, they're 95 years old, and they want to be better, they want to feel better.
Everybody wants to feel better till it's the end, right?
Exactly. That's the goal, right? Live the longest,
exactly.
the healthiest.
Yes.
It's really interesting that you're passionate about skin, because I remember when I was a teenager, I was dealing with acne, pretty bad acne, and I didn't know any better. I took Accutane a few times. I didn't know the side effects. It destroyed my liver. I started to have all kinds of issues.
Yes.
That was also one of the main reasons why I do nutrition. So can you tell us, because skin is a reflection of your organ functions, the reflection of your insides, how things are inside your body. So can you tell us the major, most common myth of skin issues like acne, eczema,
That it is Yeah, that it is just a skin condition that will go away. You'll outgrow it. That's what was the one I heard the most when I was, you sort of hung on to that.
Yes.
Oh, great. When I turned 20, this will magically go away, which for me it didn't. I did Accutane just like you did. I had all the crazy stuff with the blood test and everything. Um, but you're right. It's tied to, we know now, of course, that diseases of the skin, most often like eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, and acne, all deal with inflammation in the skin, which tells the immune system there's a problem. So it turns on and it creates this effect that we know as these diseases. And a lot of times when we can address the inflammation, sometimes that's through diet, sometimes it's through a cleanse or cleansing brush, sometimes it's through changing products. Often it's a mix of all of those. We're able to reduce the inflammation and then therefore reduce the effect on the skin. But it very much is a barometer of your health. It has two functions. One, to protect you, obviously, from the environment. It's what faces the elements and the toxins and all of that. But it also helps regulate body temperature. It does so much. It removes toxins from your body. Your skin actually breathes. It sweats out, excess salts and alcohol if you drink alcohol. So it's the largest organ in the body, and it has got the biggest job next to your brain and keeping you alive. So,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So there's a lot of research. At least I get a lot of companies sending me samples of like probiotics for the skin, like the skin microbiome. It seems
yes.
that that's a big thing right now. There, all those different things that I get in the mail. But to me, that's a band-aid because you can help your skin, but you have to fix your microbiome into your gut, not
Yeah.
necessarily the skin. So
Yeah.
what
That
are
was
the
huge for
things?
me. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's what I actually did to cure up my acne, because back then, like I said, there was no internet, which may be a good thing that there wasn't.
Yeah, right.
Would have taken me longer to fish through stuff. But once I discovered that sugar was a trigger for me, and I had been on antibiotics for acne for so long that my internal gut health was off, that's what we
Yeah,
called it back then. We did talk about probiotics. Once I went on a fast, took a food vacation, let all of that stuff get out of my system, and then balanced the probiotic biome in my system. And, I had to take probiotics are a lot better these days. They're formulated to make it down, but you had to take a lot of them back in the
yes,
80s and
yeah,
90s to get the effect. So basically what we did back then was we removed sugar from the diet. We ate a lot of things that killed and reduced the yeast so that the good bacteria could take over. So back then it was more about letting yourself get back into balance. It took a long time. It took weeks, maybe even months. Where now we can supplement with probiotics, but you have to know which one you need because there are
yeah,
different ones. But basically through dietary changes, through adding a good set of probiotics, and by refraining from a lot of the sugar, refined sugars, and hydrogenated oils and products that cause imbalance in the digestive system, you can bring that back into balance. And a lot of times these skin problems clear up. That's what happened to me. 3 days. I took a food vacation for 3 days. I went on a fast.
wow,
I got a colon cleanse back then is what they called it. Not exactly the same thing we call those today, the fibery stuff. This was an actual cleanse where you went in, it's called a colonic.
yeah,
And I quit breaking out. For the first time since I'd been 11 and I was 23, I quit breaking out. And not only did I not break out, the red marks that would usually be left behind because I had cystic acne also went away. So I was pretty shocked. So, I shared that information throughout the years, and then I got focused in the skincare realm back in 2000 with the book on all that stuff that happened to me. Went on television and talked about it. Was on TV for 4 years because we were still at a point where people were trying these probiotics and they were taking sugar out of their diet and dairy products out of their diet, and they were getting relief. Whereas a lot of people were not getting it from the products designed to help. That's not to say there are not ingredients like salicylic acid and niacinamide that can be helpful. Zinc also helpful on the skin surface to help decongest pores and reduce those issues. But again, it all comes down to inflammation. And then as we age, that same inflammation that causes those problems tends to increase in most people that don't exercise or eat right, or they still perpetuating a lifestyle of maybe smoking and alcohol. Sorry, folks, that's the truth.
That's the
And that
truth.
inflammation leads to telangiectasias, which is a growth of spider veins. People think those are broken. They're not. That's your skin attempting to provide more oxygen and nutrients to the upper layers of your skin. So those are actual live veins that are produced, that are bringing up nutrients. They're not broken, like a varicose vein would be. So we see the effects of enlarged looking pores because they're impacted. Pores don't get larger or smaller, but they can become impacted and look larger. That get a dull layer of skin on the outside that needs to come off through exfoliation. So as we get older, oil production slows down, skin cell replication tends to slow down. And so there are ways to do changes in your routine and with your products and in your diet and fitness that can actually roll back the years, not just on your skin, but biologically for you. As a Health Got study just came out in October, where they tested this on people, how if they made these changes, adding 20 to 30 minutes of moderate activity a day, if they up their skincare routine and use products that help speed up cellular turnover, if they ate correctly, removed a lot of the sugar, ate a balanced diet, lots of leafy greens, lean meats, pure oils like olive oil, doesn't really make a difference. And what they found was that over our 8-week period, they actually saw up to a 3-year biological reverse in the person's physiology. So that's pretty big. You
That's
can
impressive.
if you adopt that for the rest of your life, what can happen for you. So the first time I heard of that was actually Doris Day, who's a famous singer, became a vegetarian. And I'm not suggesting that you need to do that, but she became a vegetarian, and there you can go back and read about this back in the 70s. And she also became very much more physically fit, and she was with it right up until the end in her late 90s. So, it does make a difference for a lot of people. It's going to keep you from getting a disease, not necessarily because there are other factors involved, but it gives you the best chance at having the most years with the most energy, the most health. I'm 50, going to be 58. I'm not on any blood pressure medication. I'm not on any arthritis medication. I don't have any of those issues. And yeah, genetics can play a little key, but you could have the very best genetics and still, have all these issues show up later in life. So it very much is choices, little by little choices that we make throughout the years that accumulate and make the big difference. So, I'm very grateful for where I'm at. As again, I always say, knock on wood, anything can happen to anybody at any time when it comes to disease and physiology, but you're much less likely to incur those kinds of problems, especially the things that we associate with old aging after 50, which is stiffness and not being able to have the energy to do what you want to do, not being able to sleep well, having arthritis, having to be on medication to lower blood pressure and stuff. Blood thinners are really prevalent in the United States, which just makes me crazy. But anyway, when it's sort of like a vicious cycle when you get into those areas and you have to start taking medications that are hard on your liver and your kidneys, and one thing's going to get you or the other thing's going to get you. It's what my mother used to say, and she was right.
Yeah, she was right. I have experienced that myself when I started taking Accutane. I started to have blood pressure issues and different other issues because of the medications. It's really, really ridiculous that people are really stuck in this pattern, right? And they don't know what to do to get out of it.
Right.
And you touch a really interesting topic to me is longevity, right? So I think living longer, healthier is the key. And there's a myth. I'm sure you hear this all the time. I mean, people tell me all the time, man, I'm getting older. I have aches and pain. I have this and that. But you just said that these are symptoms. It's your body. It's just body signals to tell you something is off. So can you once and for all debug that and just, let us know, tell people know that it's a myth. If you do have pain, it's not because you're getting older.
Right. Yeah, you're probably it's that vicious cycle. Typically what happens to most people, and again, I defer people to their doctors, but and doctors tell me the same thing. I have a lot of peers that are dermatologists and doctors, and then the same thing. They don't want their patients on medications, but they tell them and give them plans on what to do, and they're not followed. And when you begin to feel that, what happens is people are going to feel stiff over time. They do less instead of more. So little by little, incrementally over time, suddenly there's one day your back feels like crap, or you can't get up off the couch, or you're really, really stiff, and you're like, why am I like this? And it must be because I'm getting old, you know. And I hear
Yeah.
people in their 30s saying that. I'm like, 30?
Yeah.
So they start to move less, which is the problem. So, you know, taking up things like walking, playing with your dog, walk your dog, go to the park, get off the couch, you know, spend some time outside or inside, get some projects where you're up working around, hobbies, what have you. Take yoga, which is very mild, swimming, which is very mild, and get you kind of going. And then what happens as you get the benefits over that 8-week period that we're talking about, this is about how long it takes you to really notice without doubt that you're having some positive changes, then you're going to start to feel better, and it just goes from there. You know, there are people that we know take collagen peptides that help with joint health because they're negative in the area of certain amino acids. We know that beet powders and the grape resveratrol, all of those things help increase nitric oxide in the blood, which gets removed even from things like mouthwash, like Listerine. So there are a lot of things on the holistic side that we know can be counterbalanced with just really simple things that you can incorporate into your daily diet and routine.
So what are the few changes that people can do when it comes to the diet? Because, you know, like I do, there's dozens of diet out there. It's all confusing. People don't know what to do anymore. So what are the few things they really need to look for, change, and eat more or less?
Yeah, I keep there's a thing I call balance, and I don't recommend people that have been on a meat and potatoes diet just cut that out cold turkey and go and just start eating salad. Your body's not going to like that.
No, correct.
You're going to go through a period of some digestive issues. But if you can start, I like the words I use today are lean in. So lean into more fruits and vegetables, lean into more organic foods, non-GMO foods, lean into lean fish, better oils like olive oil, coconut oil. You know what's in your products and your food. A lot of canned foods, especially in the US, have sugar added and too much salt. So you need to take a look at those things, you know, and begin to make those changes over time. You don't need to like throw everything out. It wouldn't change anything anyway. So, and especially sugar, refined sugar is like the biggest problem because it's in so many things and it has wreaked so much havoc. Your body can only manage and process so much refined sugar, and that extra sugar that stays in your blood glycates and gets oxidized. So it becomes poisonous to your system. That's why we see all the diseases associated with that. But it also weakens your cell walls. We know that it weakens things like collagen and elastin fibers over time. It causes weaker, when the cell replicates, it causes weaker cell walls. It helps reduce the length of those telomeres, which are how long your cells are going to live. So by removing a lot of that sugar, I mean, there are just loads of studies and books, amazing stories out there of people who kicked sugar out of their diet and what it did for them. You will never read a book or see a person say, I kicked sugar out of my diet and I hate it, just ruined my life. You know, my health went down the tube. You never hear that. What you hear is I lost that 15 pounds I couldn't leave. I was able to sleep better at night. I feel great. You know, I crave better, healthier foods. Then when I see something, I don't even want the piece of cake. It's like, nah, you know, I don't want that. So that really is good for you internally, but also for your skin health, because it really does wreak havoc on collagen and your skin cells. So we know that studies are proving that over and over again, too much sugar in the diet. So can you have some? Yes, there are 2 teaspoons is the amount, the most. And that's still a lot. But I can tell you, if you go through and add it up, what everybody eats on a normal day, it's anywhere from a half a cup to a cup of sugar.
That's unbelievable.
Now, when you sit down and think, would I eat a cup of sugar? No. Ugh. But if you add it all up to the 3 meal a day balanced American diet, you know, which is going to have desserts and all that stuff thrown in on top, yeah, it's a cup of sugar a day. That's a lot.
It's a lot. Like you said, people don't realize how much they eat or drink, right? From sodas or
especially sugared colas. They're like the worst.
Yeah, these are the worst, the high fructose corn syrup.
Can you have that stuff every once in a while? Absolutely. What you'll find is when you are leaning in a more balanced way, when you have that occasional snack or something like that, it's not going to bother you. It may bother you up here a little bit because you're like, I really should be eating that, but
Yeah.
your body can tolerate it. But when it has to process that day after day after day, it's bad on your kidney. It's just really too much. And sugar, sugar, the two things both start with an S I talk the most about: sugar in your diet and sunscreen. When it comes to skin health, those are the two things I talk the most about, probably.
So let's get back to the sunscreen in a minute. But sugar, like you said, is a big topic, right? I believe that, you can read online people switch to veganism or vegetarianism or carnivore or keto or paleo. They all improve, right? I believe the common factor is because they eliminate the junk food, the refined sugar specifically.
Yeah, and it's okay to get supplements. We know that vitamin K2 is very important for calcium for calcium distribution in the body to be processed and distributed. And
Correct.
the thing is that we know about K1, that's pretty easy to get in most of our foods and vegetables. K2, very hard to get. Usually have to supplement it with a D3 to get that. But it's very important, especially for women, to be talking to their doctors about this, because there's a whole litany of information on how well it helps women, in particular with osteoporosis. It helps get that calcium where it's supposed to be in your bones and your brain, to help the formation of collagen rather than sitting in your arteries and hardening and causing calculus in places like the brain. So K2, very, very important nutrient. I've kind of been predicting the future of skincare lately, where I say we're going to see these new therapies: red light therapy, RF therapies, radio frequency, ultrasound therapies for anti-aging and healing. And I think that's going to become the centralized part of skincare. And then all the topicals and things that help the very outer layers of your skin are going to kind of be on the periphery. I think it's going to flip at some point. And then, of course, diet's going to play a huge role in that as we move along, because we just keep learning more and more. It's just getting the gumption, I guess, to go ahead and make those changes. But I always say, if you go to the grocery store and you don't bring it home, you won't eat it. If you're hungry and you get up and you put salads in the fridge and you've got some fresh fruit, maybe you got some nuts or whatever, maybe some lean meats, whatever, you're not going to run to the store and get an ice cream bar. You're going to eat. You'll find something in there to snack on that's healthier. Frozen grapes are really good, by the way. They're just like candy. Yeah. They're sweet, and it makes them sweeter, so you really feel like you're getting something very sweet. So, but if you bring the stuff home from the grocery store, you're going to eat it. So
you're right.
You sort of self-manage. You have to think ahead a little bit, pre-plan, pre-pave what your household's going to look like when it comes to food.
Correct. So you talked sunscreens a few minutes ago. I think this is like you said, one of the biggest topics when it comes to skincare, right? The sun causing skin problems, skin cancer, sunscreen. So can you help us a bit about this? Because this is really important. And I believe it's 95% of people are vitamin D deficient. So it's really common. Not use too much sunscreen.
There is so much misinformation around sunscreens and sun. We could probably do a whole other show, but I'm going to try to put this in a really quick thing. 75 to 80% of the visible signs of aging on your skin come from accumulated damage from the sun. Now, we're surface dwellers. Our body can tolerate some sun, and we are meant to do that. Yeah. However, it is a problem when you're laying out there, laying and baking, or if you're working in an environment where you're in the sun all day, or if you're in a sunny climate like I am in Florida and you're driving. Even with me, as good as I've been with sunscreen since I was 23, this side of my skin has more photo aging than this side, because this is the window side, driver's side for us. So always in the sun. Yeah. So you have to use your reasoning ability. If I'm going to be out in the sun or I'm out in sunlight, you want to use a good mineral-based sunscreen. Mineral-based sunscreens reflect sunlight back out away from the skin. They don't absorb readily because the particles are too large. They don't get in your bloodstream, whereas some of the chemical sunscreens can, with the exception, I think benzone's the one that they have not been able to find any interaction past the bloodstream into the bloodstream. But octinoxate, there are a lot of those that are banned in the oceans because of the effect on marine life as well. So you kind of want to try to, I say you stay away from it. Although if it's a matter of you wearing sunscreen or not, wear the chemical one. I don't care, because it's going to protect your skin from skin cancer. It's going to help reverse it actually helps reverse photo aging, because you're taking the energy that your skin's been using to protect itself internally to do the work that it needs to do in the repair cycles, so that your skin actually looks younger and is healthier. So very important to do it. You don't have to put on SPF 50s. They're thick, they're sticky, they get in your eyes. SPF 30 is more than enough. We have all these new generation blends of sunscreens where it's mineral and a little bit of the chemical. We also have powders where the ladies who wear makeup can apply that as a translucent powder. So sunscreen has come a really long way. And you should be getting enough vitamin D in your food if your diet is balanced, that you're not going to be deficient by wearing sunscreen. I haven't seen one study that really, when they dug into that, found that the person, just because they wore sunscreen, was vitamin D deficient. There was usually a whole lot of players in that situation, especially when it comes to diet. So much of our foods are fortified. Even the ones that are good for you can provide some of that citrus food. Vitamin D is naturally occurring in a lot of things, and you don't need very much sun to get a daily dose of that. Like, it's not like you need.
Question is, how many minutes do you get?
Yeah, like I believe it's say 10 to 15 minutes of sun on your skin produces all the vitamin D you need for like 2 or 3 days. So it's like, it's not like, but it is a nutrient, and I am a big believer in supplementation where you're deficient. So you need to find out where you're deficient first before you jump in and say, just decide you need vitamin D or any vitamin, because you may not. And those tests, or blood tests, are usually generally very inexpensive and well worth the money. The worst case scenario, you're going to walk away not deficient in anything, and you can just go about changing your diet. But it's always good to know. We can tell so much from a drop of blood now, what you're deficient in. The other thing is not to over supplement something. Vitamin A can be a problem if you take too much. Vitamin D can be a problem if you take too much. Yeah. Vitamin K2 can be a problem if you take too much. So you just want to make sure you educate yourself on what you actually need. And always, as I say, if you're on medications, anytime you change your diet or you're going to add some sort of supplement, you should let your doctor know, because you may be on a medication that interferes with, and we don't want that. So,
That's a really good point here, because I've had people believing that vitamin D was safe, was healthy, and overdosing. It can be
EDA, certain of the B's, even C. If you take too much of that, you'll know when you take too much C. You'll have an upset stomach. Yeah. So, but you overdo. Your body doesn't take more than it needs from that stuff. It's going to cast it off, or it's going to try to put it in your liver or your kidneys to get rid of it, and that's where you start to see the issues with like vitamin A.
Correct. That's a really tough topic here, because a lot of people, like in the carnivore keto field, they do talk about vitamin A overdosing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be really careful. But there's some people who claim that like zinc oxide or titanium oxide in sunscreens should be avoided. So what's your take on that? Is that
I disagree with that one. The reason I say that is those molecules, even the nano ones, they're non-nano and nano, which just means different size. None of those can penetrate the skin and be absorbed in those products. You're just not. The only danger to the zinc sunscreen powders, or you shouldn't breathe them in. But mostly that's going to be women that are going to be using those with their cosmetics, and they already know not to breathe in their face powder. They're not going to do that. So we don't want it in the eyes or in the nose. It can be very irritating to the lungs, but it is a really great way to get sun protection without the chemical side effects. Now, there have been some people that are sensitive to some of those minerals, and in that case, you may have to go with what I usually tell people is go with the infant or child formulation of your favorite sunscreen, whether that's Neutrogena, Banana, it doesn't matter, because those formulas are designed to be less irritating to skin. They're safe on children. The amount of chemical components are much lower in those, and you're still going to get good sun protection. And at the end of the day, you also have clothing. We have hats, shirts, gloves. We have all this stuff that's been technology is amazing. It's come out with all these very breathable things you can wear. I know this because in Florida, it's a big thing to wear the hats and the sleeves. They're out there fishing in 90-degree, 100-degree heat, and they've got these shirts on, and they're just cool as can be. So there are ways around it if you really, really are worried about sunscreen. But do your due diligence. People are always surprised when I pop studies in these videos and I put links, and then they can go. Sorry, that's my dog. they can go look up the stuff for themselves and they go, I didn't know that. You never hear that. Well, you're not going to hear that on TikTok. You're not going to hear that when someone is really focused in on a negative or a positive of anything. And so I try to bring balance to stuff in the information. And again, not everything works for everybody and not everything affects everybody exactly the same. So if you're having issues with any product, you should always patch test a product anyway on your inner elbow to make sure that it's not going to give you issues before you use it if you've never used it before. But if it's not for you, it's not for you, and you have to look for alternatives. And again, clothing, if you have a diet rich in natural vitamin A and carotenoids, your skin can actually do a good degree of self-protection against the sun, believe it or not. But usually, as I said, it's a mixture of things that we need to do that provide the balanced protection that we need.
And you're right. When I was a kid, I was so sensitive to the sun. I was sunburned actually quite easily. When I changed my diet, I can spend a few hours in the sun and nothing happens.
It has a lot of, right. It has a lot of capability of self-protection. So
awesome. Now, what about fasting? There's a lot of studies supporting that the benefit of fasting, right? But a lot of those are done in animals, in fruit flies or rats or mice. What about us doing some fasting? Is that something important to implement for longevity?
I can tell you from personal experience working with people that a lot of the intermittent fasters, which is something that I practice, see improvement in their skin as well. And the theory being that restricting the body to a smaller window of eating is more evolutionary right for how humans developed, that our body naturally likes that fasting period, that it digests disease, damaged cells. There are studies that support that to varying degrees. So again, fasting is something you should talk to your doctor before you start. Just make sure that you're capable of doing that without a problem. But I found my way out of acne by fasting. So my personal experience has been that it's a good thing to do, not for weight loss, although people do it for that reason. You can get weight loss through intermittent fasting and fasting, but what you want to do is have a plan that you're using the fasting mechanism just for better health. The weight loss will come along with that. But, people, again, I need my intermittent fasting is supposed to be 12 hours, and or 16 or whatever you pick, 18. And then, but if I go like 4 or 5 days without eating anything, I'll lose weight faster. Well, your body knows what you're doing and will shut down your metabolism so that you don't. And the minute you put anything in your mouth, it's going to fat store because it thinks you're in a situation where you're starving to death. So it's all in balance. But fasting has been proven through the centuries. I mean, it's been around for a long time because there are benefits to it.
Yeah.
If there are no benefits to humans from it, we wouldn't be talking about it today because it's a practice as old as just time. I mean, it's been practiced forever. But I think that you just want to make sure that you know what your goals are, what the reason for it is, and what benefits you're looking for. Yeah. I do it because I feel like it helps keep my body in balance. It helps keep my weight in balance. I have more energy. I sleep better when I don't eat a whole bunch of food after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's just my particular thing. So yeah, I mean, you need to read about it because there are some adjustments your body makes when you start doing that. Just like for keto or any other thing that you're going to try. Anytime you change what your body's been used to, it goes through a little bit of a rebellious stage.
Good point. That you have to be careful with that. Maybe ease into it, right? Do a little bit, 12 hours, 13, 14 increment. You mentioned weight loss. I think we can talk a few minutes about it, but what would you recommend about weight loss, especially for postmenopausal women? It seems that those clients or people have a harder time to lose weight. There's a hormonal component to it. So what would you recommend to help them? It seems to be pandemic out there. A lot of people struggle with that.
We've seen that the intermittent fasting is very effective, removing the refined sugar and dairy in particular from the diet, at least for a while, seems to help with that. There are a lot of correlations between dairy, especially altered dairy, like 2%, what have you, and hormone changes that occur. in younger folks and in midlife adults where you have or adult onset acne.
Yeah.
Dairy has been implicated
Yeah.
in some of those issues. So it really is a trial and error, and not going to war with your body, because here's what happens when you take on a battle with yourself. You cause more stress. Stress causes more inflammation. More inflammation is going to make you hold more water. It's going to make you want to eat more food. Think about whenever you're stressed out doing something, people reach for food all the time. It's sort of a way
Yeah.
to, like, the body thinks it needs that energy. It really doesn't. So there are a lot of factors that go into that. So you kind of have to deconstruct that whole process with yourself. I always bristle a little bit when I hear women have a harder time losing weight than men, because I think that some of that's a mental thing. I don't like to promote that. I think every individual body has certain things you can do, male, female, or whatever, to help you lose weight. But the basics of weight loss have never changed. You must take in less calories than you're burning. Period. It doesn't matter if it's a diet of this kind or diet of that kind or intermittent fasting. It all comes down to you have to burn more calories than you consume, or you're not going to lose weight. I don't care what pill you take. That's just not going to work. So sometimes it's good to step back into the math and go, okay, no, wait a minute.
Yeah.
All this stuff I'm reading and hearing aside, I eat this. I track my calories. Do you use Fitness Pal or something? We all have access to those now. I track my calories and I weigh, let's say 200 pounds, and I track my calories and I'm eating 28 to 3,000 calories a day. I'm going to cut that back to 25 for 2 weeks and then see what a difference that makes. And you got to be consistent and you got to be disciplined. You can't like,
Yeah.
You're going to see some difference because you're taking in less. I don't know how much. It's different for everybody. It might be 2 pounds for you. It might be 10. Then you can kind of back it down some more till you get to where you want your ideal weight to be. And so if you're 200 pounds, your ideal weight's 155 or 160, keep chopping those calories down. And this is what fitness and certified fitness and nutritionists and trainers will tell you. You got to cut those calories down till you figure out where you are in your metabolism, and 1,500 calories a day sustains your weight at 155, then that's pretty much your rule. You can go over some days and under a few days, but that's going to be your rule. And then if you do exercise, guess what? You can consume more calories because you're burning more calories.
Yeah.
So I really recommend people track this stuff. Just like in skincare, I say take a selfie when you start a skincare routine. Take the selfie.
Yeah.
When you're doing weight loss, get on the scale. Don't get on the scale again for a month, because as you start to make changes, your body's going to go through an inflammation stage where it's going to hold water. You may actually look like you gained weight, even though it's just fluid. Then what will happen is the inflammation will start to subside. You will pass all of that water that's been held in your muscles, your skin, and your organs from inflammation. And it's very common for people on these type of programs a month out. They're moaning the day before, my God, I need to lose 10 pounds. I haven't lost any weight. They get up one day, they get on the scale, and they lost 6 pounds in 1 day because it's water, right? So you just have to educate yourself, and you have to be consistent and persistent, and you have to give yourself goals, and you have to track things. You can't guess your bank account. You got to know your calories. You got to know what you're taking in. So it really comes down to some discipline, unfortunately, for some.
Yeah, exactly. Discipline. And is that why low carb diet like keto work for a lot of people? Because they eat more fat, they feel more satiated.
It's scale
So
calories.
they eat less calories.
Yeah. In the end, it's less calories.
Yeah.
It's also very no carbs.
Yeah.
So it forces when you do no carb or low carb, you're forcing your body to use fat cells as energy. But at a certain point, you can't do that forever, because it begins to use your other cells for energy. And that's where we read about the kidney problems and the liver failure and all the stuff of people that are on keto and take it too far. You can get into a situation where it can kill you. So yeah, you want to, again, any diet plan, a lot of these all have benefits. They all have some risk. You need to read them. It's great if you can afford to hire a coach that's certified in those areas to help you through it. And definitely tell your doctor anytime you're doing something like that, because
Exactly.
they will want to check your blood just to make sure lipids are where they're supposed to be, your cholesterol is where it's supposed to be, your blood sugar is where it's supposed to be, because those things can get off. And especially with your minerals in your body, like magnesium, big problem if you have a magnesium deficiency, because it affects heart rates. So it's a lot to it. It's a lot to it.
It's not as simple. Yeah, people don't realize sometimes it's really
crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
It's amazing. So we have a listener she's asking this question. I put it on the screen. So what's the best 3 foods for healthy skin?
Oh, you're gonna love this. If I were to choose 3, and there are more than 3, for oils, I would look at olive oil and coconut oil. For your vegetables, your leafy greens like spinach, kale. It's not my favorite. Kale is not my favorite thing. Butter lettuce, the darker green lettuce, and the red vegetables. For meats, lean. I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not a vegan. I don't know where that came from. But I like lean meat. Lean fish, lean chicken, organic, and lean beef. Those are all fine. And you notice I had no sugar in there. So I'm going to give for 4th. If you want sweets, then the healthiest snacks are obviously going to be naturally sweet things like berries, grapes, things like that. Not too much of the melons. There's a lot of sugar in those, but they're okay occasionally. But your citrus fruits, things like that. So yeah, and I can't do this without saying grains. I just can't. Nuts and grains are important too. So like walnuts, just cashews, and whole grains, flaxseed. Especially if you're gluten intolerant, you want to stay away from any gluten.
Yeah, correct. Yeah,
people. So, but that group, that very tight group, can get you there.
Awesome, thank you. So, as a final note, so what would you say for somebody who's been struggling with health issues in general? So, what would be the first step to do, I guess, to make a change in the right direction?
To journal what you do. Look at how much water you drink. Look at what you eat. Look at how much sleep. Make a journal of those components. How much exercise do you really tell the truth in all of those areas, and then make a plan to improve them slowly. Because again, if you don't know what you're doing, and most people do things it's mostly unconsciously. We don't even think about stuff. It's like driving a car. People should be more mindful when they're in a car, but the same thing. We do that with our life. So the first step is to always know, what do I do? How do I sleep? What time do I go to bed? What do I get up? Do I get up throughout the night? Do I drink enough? How much water am I drinking? What am I drinking? What am I eating? How many times a day do I eat? How many calories is that? How much physical fitness do I really get? And things like walking count. Do I count my steps? Getting a tool like a smartwatch or a Fitbit, or one of those. There are some that are less expensive than that, and an app on your computer or phone to help you track that information. Those apps can actually help suggest changes to you based on that information after a month. And you can watch your heart rate improve. You can watch your blood pressure come down. So what's your blood pressure? You just need to know. And generally when people figure out where they are, they go, okay, I know what I need to work on now. You'll know. So that's my best answer on that.
I totally agree with this. It's amazing to me when I do that with people. They have no idea how much they sleep or how much they drink or how much they eat. They are just not aware of all that. This is so important information.
It is, yeah. You need to know first.
Exactly, before you can make any adjustment or change.
Right.
So thank you, Chris, for your time. So I put your information below the video, your social media, your YouTube. You have tons of followers. So go check him out. He has tons of really good information to stay healthy, to help the body to get better. So thank you for your time, Chris.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you.